a heart-touching story you need to hear before sleeping. An original 4,000-word midnight pages tale by the bench under the lantern. The old wooden bench under the flickering street lantern had been there longer than anyone in the neighborhood could remember. It sagged in the middle, like a tired back that had carried too many secrets. Children avoided it at night, lovers carved their initials into its spine, and stray cats slept beneath it in the summer. But for Elias Ward, the bench was a place of ritual. Every night at 11:03 p.m., he arrived with a paper bag of breadcrumbs, a notebook, and a thermos of chamomile tea. He would settle onto the lopsided wood, inhale deeply, and look up at the dim yellow glow of the lantern, always dimmer than the night before. He spoke to it as if it were alive. "Still hanging on, huh?" he whispered on that chilly October night. His breath drifted upward like a fading ghost. He wasn't speaking to the lamp. He was speaking to her. To Leela, his wife, his first love, his last love, his always. Though she had been gone for 3 years. Every night he came here anyway because this was the last place they had laughed together. The last place she had leaned on his shoulder. The last place she had said, "Promise me you'll keep loving the world, even when you think it's forgotten you." The promise kept him breathing. Tonight, though, the world felt colder than usual. The wind moved strangely. Even the cats stayed hidden. Elias pulled his coat tighter and looked at the paper bag of breadcrumbs. The birds that usually fluttered around him never came after dark, but he fed them anyway. It was the closest thing to hope he still knew how to offer. That was when he heard a soft, hesitant voice behind him. "Sir, are you okay?" He turned. A small girl stood there, no more than 10 years old, with huge brown eyes and mismatched gloves. Her hair was tied in a sloppy braid. She carried a backpack shaped like a rabbit, one of the ears torn off. Elias blinked. "Shouldn't you be home?" She shrugged. "Shouldn't you?" And just like that, the quiet night shifted, too. The girl with the torn backpack, her name was Arya. She sat beside him without waiting for an invitation, legs barely long enough to dangle off the bench. The lantern hummed above them, as if listening. So she began, rummaging through her rabbit backpack. "Why do you sit here every night?" Elias hesitated. Adults hesitated too much, he realized. Children simply asked. "I'm waiting," he said finally. "For someone who used to sit with me." Arya nodded slowly, pulling out a crumpled chocolate bar. She snapped it in half and offered him one piece. "For the lady you love," she asked. He stiffened. "How would you know that?" "My mom says when someone looks at light instead of shadows, they're missing someone they love." Elias swallowed hard. He didn't take the chocolate. Instead, he looked at Arya more closely. Her shoes were muddy. Her sweater was too thin. She wasn't shivering only from the cold. "What about you?" he asked gently. "Why are you out here at night?" She looked down at her hands. "I'm waiting too. For who?" But Arya didn't answer. She only offered him the chocolate again. This time, he took it. 3. A child's silence over the next week. Arya returned every night, each time exactly at 11:03 p.m. Sometimes she brought chocolate. Sometimes she brought a handful of questions. Sometimes she brought silence. Elias learned little bits about her, in the way petals fall from a flower one at a time. She lived with her mother. She didn't speak of her father. She liked stories, especially sad ones. She hated thunderstorms. And she always walked home alone. Despite her cheerfulness, something inside her was wrapped in invisible bruises. One night, as rain misted down in soft pillows, she showed up with her braid undone and her eyes red. "You okay?" Elias asked. She sat beside him and wiped her face with her sleeve. "My mom is sick," she whispered. "Sick how?" Arya shook her head. "She sleeps a lot. More every day. And she forgets things, like, she forgot my birthday last week." Elias's heart tightened. "I'm sure she didn't mean to. She also forgets to eat," Arya said. "And today she forgot to wake up until I shook her really hard." Her voice cracked. "I'm scared. Elias reached into his coat and pulled out his thermos. Chamomile tea, he said softly. It won't solve everything, but it might help with tonight. Arya cupped a warm thermos with trembling hands. Will she get better? She asked. Elias opened his mouth then closed it. He had learned the hard way never to promise things he couldn't deliver. Instead, he said, "Tell me about her." Arya wiped her cheeks and smiled faintly. My mom says stories are medicine, even when they hurt. So she told him stories about her mother. Stories filled with laughter, music, and pancakes burned on purpose because she liked the crispy edges. And Elias listened. He listened like a man learning the shape of a universe he never knew existed. When she finally left to go home, he watched her small figure retreat into the darkness and he whispered to the empty bench, "Leela, I think the world has brought me someone who needs me." The wind rustled through the trees as though answering. Then don't let her walk alone. 4. The promise reborn the next night. Elias met Arya earlier 10 minutes before she usually arrived. When she appeared, surprised to see him standing instead of sitting, he said, "I'll walk you home tonight." She frowned. "But I can walk myself." "I know," Elias replied. "But it's okay to let someone walk with you." She studied him for a long moment, then nodded. Her home was 3 blocks away, in a worn apartment building with peeling paint and a flickering hallway light. It reminded Elias of his early years of small places filled with big dreams. "Does your mom know you go out at night?" he asked quietly. "She used to," Arya said. "I think she forgot." They reached the apartment door. She knocked gently. No answer. "Is that normal?" Elias asked. She shrugged. "She sleeps deeply." Elias felt a cold whirring crawl up his spine. "Arya, do you have a relative nearby? A neighbor who checks on you?" "No," she whispered. "Does your school know?" She looked at her feet. "I." Stopped going. Elias's heart sank. He knelt so he could look her in the eyes. "Arya, listen to me. You're not alone. I won't let you be." Her chin wobbled. "Promise." The word echoed the past Leela's voice, soft in his memory, whispering, "Promise me." He felt something unlock inside his chest, something he thought had died with Leela. "I promise," he said. And he meant it. The night she didn't come for 2 weeks, Arya and Elias followed the same quiet rhythm. The bench, the tea, the stories, the walk home. Elias brought her foods, sometimes sandwiches, fruit, warm soup in a small container. Arya always said, "I'm not hungry," and then proceeded to eat everything. But one night, she didn't come. Elias waited, and waited, and waited. The street lamps buzzed. The cats slinked by. The world felt wrong. At 12:17 a.m., he stood abruptly. He ran something he hadn't done in years toward her apartment. When he reached her door, he knocked. Hard. "Arya?" "It's Elias." "Are you there?" Silence. His breath quickened. He pressed his ear against the door. Nothing. He tried the knob. It turned. Inside, the apartment was dark except for the faint glow of a television playing static. "Arya," he whispered. His voice echoed. Then he heard it, a cough. A weak, rasping cough from the bedroom. He rushed in. Her mother lay half off the bed, breathing shallowly, skin pale. Arya knelt beside her, eyes wide with fear. "Elias," she whispered. "She won't wake up. A night of fear. Elias acted on instinct, fast, steady, determined. He picked up his phone and called emergency services, his voice more authoritative than he'd sounded in years. He knelt beside the bed, checking the woman's pulse, brushing Arya's hair out of her face. "It's okay," he told her. "Help is coming." Arya clutched his sleeve. "I didn't know what to do. I tried to wake her. I shook her. You did everything you could." "No, I didn't. I should have told someone sooner." "Arya, she's all I have," she choked out. "If she goes, I'll be alone." He cupped her cheek gently, the way he used to with Lilo when she cried. "You won't be alone." "I promise." Sirens echoed outside. Paramedics rushed in. They lifted her mother onto a stretcher. Arya grabbed Elias's hand so tightly it hurt. "Can I come?" she whispered to the paramedic. He hesitated until Elias stepped in. "She's a minor. I'll accompany her." The paramedic nodded. And so, Elias and Arya rode together in the back of the ambulance, her tiny hand still locked around his. 7. The hospital lights hospitals always smelled like antiseptic and endings. Elias hated them. They reminded him of Leela's final days, of empty chairs and silent hallways, of promises whispered into stillness. But tonight, he pushed his memories aside. Arya needed him. Hours passed. The sky outside turned deep violet, then blue, then gray. Arya eventually fell asleep sitting beside Elias, her head resting against his arm. When the doctor finally approached them, Arya jolted awake. "Is my mom okay?" she asked. The doctor crouched down. "She's very sick," he said gently. "Severe pneumonia. She's been sick for a long time without treatment." Arya's lip trembled. "Will she get better?" "We're doing everything we can." "She needs to stay here for a while." Arya nodded slowly. Then the doctor turned to Elias. "Are you her guardian?" Elias hesitated. Before he could answer, Arya grabbed his hand. "He's with me," she said. "He's my friend." Elias inhaled sharply. The doctor looked at him with concern. "Child services may need to be involved. She's been caring for herself, possibly for her mother too." Arya's grip tightened painfully. "Please don't take me away," she whispered. "Eli."